At first, we're doing
Yep. All right. 5:30 p.m. We're going to call the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting to order. All right. Got to go loud, I guess. We have an audience. We're not used to an audience, but and I think we have Sylvia on Zoom. Anyone else on Zoom? No, no one on Zoom. Okay. I apologize. I will talk louder. So at 5:30, we call the meeting to order. And so I'll take roll call and we show myself, Vito, Sylvia, Janet, Michael, and we have youth council member Kira for first meeting. Oops, Alan is, yes. Thank you for the correction. And so then we'll start with approval of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes for September. If everyone's had a chance to review those, I would entertain a motion. Alan with a first and Vito seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, unanimous approval of the minutes. Thank you. Next, we have public comment. Unless you're here for the Primley Park, we'll take that public comment when it comes up on the agenda. But I don't think we have anyone here other than for Primley Park. Any public comment? Hearing none, no public comment. And we will move on to new business, and we are going to get an update on a non-motorized transportation plan.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
What, Weston?
I can go up front. Yeah, definitely.
Great. This isn't our normal setup, and so, yeah, so why don't you go here so everybody can see your smiling face?
Thank you for the mic. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, very nice to see you this evening. I have a very, very brief, I'm not even going to call it a presentation. The city's in the middle of updating our non-motorized transportation plan, and the most appropriate board for us to come and talk to. Oops, thank you, Mary. Yeah, if you can't hear me, just say something and put your hand by your ear. Sorry. It's been a while since we've had public meetings, so it's very nice to be with you in person. And with that being said, if you've gone out to eat lately, you've probably used a QR code to get the menu at the restaurant. So we have a survey out right now for citizen and non-citizen input to the city's non-motorized transportation plan update. And I have only 15 copies here, but I did check it. It works with my cell phone. If someone needs the email address in a different form, let me know. I'll be happy to get that. So in 2009, the city came up with the non-motorized transportation plan. Transpo Group, along with a number of folks, put that together. Well, lots happened since 2009. Cities invested quite a bit in capital in the city. So it's time to update that plan. And you'll hear it sometimes referred to as an active transportation plan. So those words give you a feel for what that plan's about. So we're at that point right now. We're asking citizens, we're soliciting input. You know, what are you passionate about as far as non-motorized, non-car use in the city? And so the survey, you can get it from the QR code. It's in 3 languages. Let's see. We've been out there for 3 weeks advertising it now. We've gone to a number of bicycle and other advocacy groups. It's been in the city manager's bulletins. We have a city webpage for it. We're trying to do everything we can. As of the 19th of October, we had 175 responses. So what I'm asking you tonight, both citizens in the audience as well as the Parks Board, just pass it on to your friends and neighbors and ask them to take the survey, and please do so yourself. I took it. I'm a resident of Lakewood as well as working for the city, so I took the survey as well. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, but again, very brief on my part. I'm really just asking you to take a look at that survey, and sometime next year we'll have the updated report. Yes, sir.
Hoping to develop further goals, further plans. What's kind of the general idea after next year.
Yeah, exactly. So the city has what's called the 6-year transportation improvement plan, and that includes everything transportation related. But that's not funded. That's just our transportation plan. Then in the budget, you have the 6-year capital improvement plan, and those are the things that are funded, generally speaking. So from the survey and the existing plan, we're at the point in the city where we're starting to look at interconnecting things. I'll give you a good example. If you're familiar with Oak Brook, you'll see 87th has sidewalk, 83rd has sidewalk from Stillicum Boulevard all the way to Onyx. The Onyx project's been done. Phillips by Hutloff was done. And you'll just see recently the other piece of Phillips was done that connects to Onyx. So if you live in Oak Brook, Onyx is everywhere. Sorry, just a joke if you live in Oak Brook, but now there's some coherent loops you can actually walk and bike through that part of the city that connect directly to Fort Stillicum Park. You've seen the improvements on Gravelly, Washington, Veterans. So we're starting to try to make those connections through the city. Stillicum's being worked on right now. And there's plans to take that all the way through to Far West. So I hope that answers your question, sir. All right. Like I said, very brief. Thank you for having me here this evening.
Yep, thank you very much. And so now next new business is why we think we have everyone here, and we're going to talk about the Primley Park neighborhood plan.
Hi, everybody. You can probably hear my voice. I'm usually really loud. I'm Mary Dodsworth. I have been with the city of Lakewood for 21 years, and I'm your Parks and Recreation Director. And I'm so excited to see so many familiar faces from 2000 and whenever it was, 7, I think. So 2003, we got started. I think it took us a little while to get that 202. 207. Well, anyway, you can see we're very dedicated to that site, but we're excited that you're here tonight. The city council, we have as Weston talked about, we have a 6-year CIP capital improvement program as well. And one of the things on there is playground updates. Typically playgrounds have about a 10 to 15-year life. Most of our playgrounds last about 15 years because we take really good care of them. And so Primley Park's playground is coming up on that period of time. And so it was time to take a look at that park and decide about putting in a new playground. Play structure. It's a play structure. So what we always do is decide not just what are we doing with the playground, but let's take a look at the site. We haven't really been out there for a while. We haven't talked about any major changes. The neighborhood's changed a bit. Some of the regulars that were here back then are no longer there, and there's some new folks in the neighborhood. So what we typically do is we often try and meet out on site, but that wasn't going to work this time of year. So we thought we'd invite you here tonight just to talk a little bit about Primley Park. It's a great little neighborhood park. Folks that live right by it enjoy it. Folks that come from a little bit further away enjoy it. So it's just a time tonight to talk a little bit about the park, what you like, what you're concerned about, and maybe any changes you might see wanting to happen there. So I'd like to introduce you to Stacy Redding. She is our capital projects coordinator. She's fantastic. And she's going to lead us all in a conversation about Primley Park. Hello, Councilmember Anderson. Good to have you with us.
Hi, nice to meet you all tonight. It sounds like most of you are familiar with the site and its history, but I'm just going to kind of reiterate what's existing. And we've got some pictures. We just went out on a beautiful fall day and kind of took some photos to refresh everyone's memory of what it's currently looking like. And I'll just discuss this plan as well of kind of the existing features. And so we all know what is out there currently. So Barlow Road curves around this plan. I apologize. North is not up. North is kind of to your left here. But there's a sloped grassy lawn with off-street parking here at the top of the plan. And as you curve around, there's some larger existing fir trees closer to the road, but there's some existing kind of just off-street parking and the site is sloping up with a steeper slope kind of here at the bottom of the plan. As you come up into the central park, there's a play structure that's approximately 27 by 40 with a play structure that's adequate for 2 to 5 age range. And there's one kind of remaining little chipmunk teeter-totter spring toy. There was originally 2, but that's kind of, the older one's been removed and there's one remaining. There's a picnic table kind of in the back area. There's a little bit of open lawn space, but there is one picnic table here and there's a bench adjacent to the access to the chipped play area here. There is another community bench that's on site that's not shown, but it's kind of over in this region. And there's a couple hose bibs that I know that there was a history of an adjacent neighbor that had done quite a bit of maintenance to the park with watering and pruning. So there's a hose bib here, as well as I believe somewhere over on site, but really just a sheltered wooded site with this play area. And we're looking to get kind of feedback of how neighbors utilize the park currently, if there's any concerns with some of the existing features or any kind of hopes and dreams, wishes that you'd like to include in some of these updates. So we've got some plans up front here. I don't know if it's better to take comment around the room.
I think that we could start with just folks are here with something maybe to share, and we could write that down, and then maybe we could gather around the table and write on the plan or talk about some specific areas we can divide up. We can do some of those things. So why don't we just start hearing what people have to say? All
right. So if anybody wants to raise their hand, I can bring the microphone around and take comment of what you love about the park, and we'll kind of take an assessment of that. And go ahead and introduce.
Okay, I'm supposed to introduce myself. I know half of the people here, and the person that it's mentioned that does the watering and did so much of the work in the park is Marianne Meyer, who's sitting right over here. This has been a neighborhood endeavor, but I'm Eileen Kelly. I live at 11316 Greystone Drive. These days, I used to live right across from the park. And historically, in '02, the end of Barlow was a dump. That's where everyone put their trash, their stones, what have you. And 5 years later, Mayor Claudia Thomas hosted this event with a lot of help from Mary Dodsworth. And we had kids and families, and she christened the park, and we got to introduce our big toy and the jumping chipmunks. And I was so glad to hear you mention the 2 to 5 age, because in the 5 years between '02, when it was a jump, and '05, when Mayor Claudia christened it, we, the neighborhood, did a lot of work. And one of the first things was strategizing, because GE and Kitty Primley platted our home areas and they left that spot for a park. But there was no money, there was no energy, there was no leadership. So we had the spot, but that's about all we had. And in our strategizing, we felt, because Gravelly Lake Drive was such a barrier for people to go over there for a park, we had a park for families and strollers and little kids. So when you mentioned the 2 to 5, I think that's significant, because that was in our strategy to make it a park that the kiddies wouldn't be intimidated by big folks. One time we did have to kick 2 boys off the roof of the Big Joy, but that's about the only thing we had like that. We worked on our mission, and it was small children and families and community bonding. And community bonding occurred because there was so much work to do. Marion being one of the leaders of the watering and whatnot, but the Hargrove family installed the professional sprinkler system, and the Johnston family put in a great big metal bench and chained it to the tree. The Galbraith family built a picnic table. The landscaper, what? Ed Klopping. Oh, how can I forget Ed Klopping? More than $8,000, because the trees were losing their root based. The dirt was going into the drain and that we were going to lose those trees, the beautiful trees on the corner. And if you go out and you see all the little plantings blooming, everyone brought things from their garden to put in there. And then we raised $13,000 for the big toy and the 2 jumping chipmunks, which I personally thought were ridiculous until I saw the kids. The kids loved the jumping chipmunks. I'm just so pleased to see you all interested in Primley Park because it's been kind of on Marion's back. And as Jim and I drove around it, it still looked pretty good. And I think that's just what I want to tell you in terms of what our vision was as a group of people living around the park. But we had people kind of coming from 5 and 6 blocks down, but not across Gravelly Lake, of course. They had their own things over there. Thank you very much, Mary, for letting me speak.
Anyone else have any comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Christopher. I live at 10515 Brook Lane Southwest. My house is directly adjacent from the park. I have 2 small children. Lakota, he's 3.5, and Phoenix, she's 6. Both of my children have basically grown up at Primley Park. And over the duration that we've been at this residence, we've seen the park evolve from small children, as you spoke of, to now grown or, little older kids. Unfortunately, that chipmunk was broken by an older kid who was way too heavy to be on it, and it broke. I notified the city of Lakewood that it had been broken. Now, this is something that had been paid for by the residents. I asked if they could keep it there because, the residents paid for it. They hauled it off. You spoke about the hillside, the slope, if you will. There's tons of broken glass on that hillside. Anytime that we see any new kids come and play, they love to play hide and seek and whatnot because of all the trees and all the shrubbery. I asked them not to play on that hillside because there's so much broken glass. One of the prior residents that used to live there did some sort of auto maintenance or whatever, and he'd throw the windshields over his fence into the Primley Park as a dump site, as you mentioned. We go there regularly, maybe, nice weather daily. There's always trash to be picked up. Unfortunately, people are not considerate of this park. There's a lot of maintenance that is required of this park. I don't think it's fair for any one person that lives in the neighborhood to pick it up, as Mary Ann does religiously. It's frustrating that other parks in the city of Lakewood get much more attention than Primley Park. You guys spoke about these sidewalks and whatnot. Well, this little area has many, many pedestrians, cyclists that walk their dog. There are no sidewalks there. There's hills that surround the park that cars go flying down. There's not a speed bump. There's a lot of little kids that now live in this neighborhood where there wasn't little kids before. There's an app on the Lakewood 411 or something. I've made numerous complaints or only to be rejected by it clearly says 15 miles an hour. They've actually came out and put these things to track how fast these cars were going. And within 4 hours of putting out the little strip to see how fast these cars were going, they broke the strip and they had to come out and reset it. That's how fast these cars are going down this hill. A lot of these trees a lot of these big trees are beautiful, but they have not been maintained. I on a windy day, if I'm sitting underneath a bench, I'm a little fearful of a branch or a limb falling down and impaling me or my kids. The irrigation, the sprinkler system that is on property does not work. It's failed. It's a PVC system. I work for the city of Seattle in the water department, and PVC is not the proper system you want to have over a period of time. With all these trees, roots have got into it, and there's numerous leaks on that property. Yeah, just to name a few things. Other than that, you know, people love this park. People come from all over the place just to, you know, this is truly a park you can let your kids off the leash and have a good time. You know, you don't have to worry about. Every once in a while we get homeless people who want to come down. I have noticed at late night you get the teenagers, you know, that are making out or whatever they're doing. But other than that, it's a pretty safe and fun park.
Thank you for your feedback. That was a lot of great information. Does anybody else like to speak?
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Hannon, and I live on Brook Lane, about a block from the park. And I've always enjoyed the park. It's such a great place to sit in the summertime with all the great shade there on a hot day. It's a real refuge to just sit and enjoy the quiet of the park. I think over the last 5 or 10 years, it wasn't hard to figure out who was doing all the work in the groundskeeping. That was Mary Ann Myers. And I threatened her several times that when I finally retired, I'd come over and give her a hand, which I did retire in January. And I've been over a handful of times to rake leaves and mow grass. And I guess I'm hearing a lot of really good ideas. And the only thing that I would mention too is this time of year, when I go work in the park, I take my own lawn barrel to fill up with clippings. And this time of year, that barrel is not going to be available until about the middle of February because I'm on the 2-barrel plan. Every 2 weeks, I got to get rid of 2 barrels of leaves. So between now and February, I like to keep raking over there, but I like to ask, is it possible, could the Park Service pick up a contract with LeMay for 1 barrel pickup in the park every other week? Oh, they picked them. Oh, so they. Okay. Was not a problem then. So I saw the piles, didn't know they had a plan to get rid of them, so I didn't get back there today. Okay. Yep. That's all I would want to add.
That was just to inform everyone. I asked our maintenance lead that in the summertime, they regularly visit the park once every 2 weeks. And in the fall, when leaf season begins, they visit weekly. Did you want to have anything to add, Marianne? Okay. Correct, typically.
And maybe there are upgraded toys that would be better, but I mean, those were really kind of neat and fun. And I guess my suggestion would be replace the one that's missing or replace maybe the one that's there isn't working as well as it used to. I thought that was kind of a neat addition. The big toy is fun in a different way, but and there may be other things that could go in there, but something for little kids.
Well, and Mary, in my tenure, we haven't replaced one spray. So other than that, 8 years, they last.
My own hose over during off season if needed.
The question is about the irrigation system.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Then there's challenges, you mentioned that. So there is a meter that's actually as far away from where those spigots are as where the meter is. So I think the idea is probably to remove those two spigots because we fixed them several times. They're not functioning properly, and probably putting in some new kind of water system, whatever that ends up needing to be, probably closer to where the meter is, so it can be more. I'm not sure exactly. Most of the plants and trees out there are quite established. So well, all plants have sort of a life cycle to it. So sometimes, those plants that survive then great in a location. Also, the next year they don't. So part of it is, replacing things as we use them. But water system, take a look at that. Yeah, it's been a challenging couple of years, that's for sure, right?
But I would say, Mary, looking at the foliage that we all planted, like the Oregon grape and stuff like that, I think it's lasted. Well, we picked things that could survive in the park environment, but it looks pretty good yet. So I don't think the foliage needs much help, but the water is what Marion is talking about. Yeah.
I do have to say, he has been, when we first started, the neighbors were adopting the park, and then more neighbors over there, but you is the majority. He would call and say, hey, I did some pruning, bring me some more bags, and I did some pruning. He'd go over there, and I don't know how he did it, right? How he's done all of that pruning, but he kept that part. Every stick, every stone.
And mowed the lawn,
Mowed
mowed
the lawn.
the grass.
I would just say to the whatever you put into it, my guess is the neighborhood would maintain because the neighbors were so fond of it. Not the garbage necessarily, but it's a good investment because it did well.
It's more on the sprinkler. I was surprised to hear from Paul that there wasn't sprinklers. I went over there several times because the road that moving terribly, but they responded immediately to buckets of water. So they get water in it.
Even if we had a watering system that required zero maintenance, a lot of time, a couple sprinklers, that way Mary Ann, no one's actually responsible for a battery that says time and water, and it only be during the summer months, because the sprinkler system is water the grass, water the plants. I think that would be very helpful. I also think that, this is a public park, this is a public park now. This is not a community park. That means that the park system this is their responsibility. And as a community, we have a responsibility as well. I understand that, but a lot of my neighbors aren't, we're not all spring chickens. We all have lives that, don't allow us to maintain a park. I wish I could just sit maintain a park, but I have to provide everything for my family and, help with homework and soccer practice, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think going forward, it would be great for those families that did contribute in the beginning when this was a private park to have something with their name on it at the park that gives thanks to them for their donations and for their hard work that they put into this park originally.
Yeah, it's always been a public space, but it certainly had private, the community built it. They definitely should raise funds. And you're right, it's a public park. Everybody, not just neighbors, everybody is there. And it's honestly that. And the city is involved. We're always grateful. We have communities who do all over the city and the neighborhood parks, but it's also to take care of that. And if we're not doing a good enough job, then we need to that make sure based on the research that we have and the research that park needs, right? It's a natural area. It's very, that's why we love it, right? It's very natural.
I drove by the park and I have one question for the people that live in the area. Do you ever have problems with parking, with people driving to the park? And parking in the road? Is there enough space on the easements for that? It's not the kind of park that people will come from miles around to visit. But you know, anybody who drives to the park will obviously park there somewhere next to your homes. Yeah. Just in the shoulder, and the shoulder doesn't have designated parking gravel area or anything. Yeah.
One of the things that we'll need to do, because we are updating the park, and I'm not quite sure why it didn't happen when we did it the first time, but we have to make the playground ADA accessible, right? And so that means that we do need to take a look at finding a spot where someone could park and physically get there that might have mobility issues. So we'll need to be taking a look at that, and it should be accessible to everybody in the city that wanted to go there. So, yeah, so we'll be taking a look at that too, because that'll be a requirement, and we make an update or an upgrade to something. Like I said, I'm not quite sure why it's not that way now, but it will be.
So, are restrooms a problem for people using that park? That's never been a problem? Okay.
Yeah. We do occasionally, but that also can generate more problems. And so we usually request of user groups or programming space or neighbors requesting that. It ends up being either on the UPS and sometimes sometimes we can create new activities. So we can get a our plan is good, and it's such a small little spot, you know, really here.
We're back to that handicap accessible, walkway in the park.
Probably some from a parking spot, sometimes paved or hard surface, or gravel, just depends on. But the council has allocated $50,000 for improvements, and that is primarily our playground or play structure replacement. It's a small playground, you know, play structure. So we'll take a look at spending whatever goes into all of these. That's what we're talking to now. So yeah, so in order to make it easy, so that could be compacted gravel surface.
I have a question there, because when we built it, we had to have this special stuff that if the kids fell off,
In the
you wouldn't
playground.
hurt himself.
Fall
So-
zone material.
What is it?
It's fall material. So when you have a playground safety standards, there's a certain amount of fall zone. In the old days, we used to use gravel, and some places you see they have spongy, foamy poured in place. We often will use the chips. They're expensive, but they're more economical. You can either spend all your money on the fall surfacing or spend money on the play surface. So we try to mix that up. But that's it makes it compact so that it can be, you can get through the playground.
Oh, that would be adequate for the ADA.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for the ADA.
I'd just like to make a comment about his comments about the feeding people. There are a lot of people that walk in that neighborhood because it's so peaceful. And it's a Brook Lane is a pretty narrow street. And that whole corridor from Meadow to Brook Lane and onto Meadow is a shortcut for some people to avoid the traffic lights. That's why they're driving. In fact, where Steve lives, maybe before you were there, somebody lost it on that foot and ran into the wall in front of your. So I would like this idea of having a speed bump or more signage or something. Because like right where the bridge is, that's really narrow. A lot of walkers, cars going by, and it's.
We'll share that with our public works engineer, and they focus on all of those. So we'll make sure they're in the loop on this.
You need a dog station? Pardon me? You need a dog station? Do you need one?
The question was if you need a dog waste receptacle.
What are some of the other, Mr. Coleman, you bring your grandchildren there? Or are you like? Okay. You have to be one to go to the park. That's the point of like. So the playground itself is a 3 to 5-year-old playground. That's kind of based on the fact we had a very small footprint and we were kind of trying to have it be for littler kids. Is there an interest in having something that, you know, as kids age, they still need to do fun things, to have something that would be accessible to the older kids? Playgrounds are typically built 3 to 5, 5 to 12. 2 to 5, 2 to 5, 5 to 12. So is there an idea that you might want something that larger kids could come so that they're not breaking the squirrels, that, you know, they have something to climb on or do? Right, right. But some things are made to accommodate taller, larger, older children. Something springy or spinny or. Typically, you have them separate, or you too high in one area and usually have some separation for them. Because you're right, it's, you know, they're working at different speeds and different energies. I'm just asking a question. We haven't made any decisions. We're really wanting to hear what you folks have to say, because we're the experts.
You know, one observation is for us, is there's rarely anything that would even approach the word crowd. I mean, usually there's 1 or 2 users at a given time in the family, not very many. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful place.
Mary, I just wanted to weigh in because Primley Park has a special place in my heart. It was one of the first projects I worked on when I became a Parks Board member. And when my wife and I decided to have a family, it was a park that we frequented. And I mean frequented it. We drove more than a mile to get there because we're over by Fort Steilacoom Park, and great park, but it didn't have the charm and the allure that Primley Park had. Unfortunately, we were one of the people that were kind of parking on the grass off to the side, but no one had a problem with it. The neighbors were always gracious and kind, and it was the passion that you guys brought as a community that really inspired me as a board member at that time, and to take such pride in that park. And so for me, I mean, to the effect that for 3 years in a row when my kids were young, they're 8 and 11 now, I would come there a little bit early and we would do an Easter egg hunt over there. And, you know, we had the park to ourselves, but it was beautiful family memories. And so for me, I want to continue to see the park be what it can be. I think it is everything it should be right now, but what we could do is update that playground equipment. I would be a proponent of maybe bringing in some 5 to 12-year-old playground equipment. And because what I've learned from my kids being 8 and 11 now, when they play, they may be 2 or 5, but some of that stuff isn't challenging or exciting for them. And to me, if I've got my kids at the playground, I'm going to be watching them to make sure things are somewhat safe. Not that doesn't always happen, and I'm aware of that, but just because even though they're younger, they're still going to go on it and play it, but yet it may give a little factor for, a kid that is 6, 7, or 8 years old, where the 2 to 5 is just a little bit below them. I agree. The spring toys there, I am a certified playground safety inspector. Those spring toys are a little bit scary as a safety inspector. But the chipmunks, and my kids didn't call it Primley Park, they called it Chip and Dale Park. And I would love to see some iteration of the chipmunks back in the park because they brought a flavor to it. And like I say, we literally called it Chip and Dale Park. So to me, I'm super grateful that the city is continuing its investment in this park. As they said, they would support the community in the 2003 timeframe. And let's just give it a little spruce up, a spring cleaning, freshen up some of the items, and let it continue to be the gem of Lakewood Parks that it truly is.
Another volunteer was Greg White, the landscaper, who put in the climbing rocks. And I just mentioned the climbing rocks. So when you redesign, if you do, the kids, again, I thought climbing rocks were stupid. The kids love them. They climb all over those rocks. So don't get rid of the climbing rocks. Okay.
Flat, you could use it for a table, a chair, climber. Those rocks are fantastic. There's your 5 to 12. Yeah. King of the mountain, queen of the hill. Oftentimes when we have these charrettes, we kind of gather around, we look at the pictures, maybe write on this. Does anybody have, we're not really looking, it's such a small space. I don't think there's a lot of redesign happening. I think it's just refreshing, reviving, and updating, making sure it's safe. That's our other thing, safe and accessible. So, but if anybody wanted to mark on the paper, or we have photos here, you're welcome to take a look at and share. We really want to hear from you that this is an area of concern, or this is an area that's just so special, don't touch it, like the rocks. We contract with our arborist activity, but we did recognize out there that there's a couple of trees that look a little shifty, but it does need definitely some pruning, so. What? Oh. There's some native plants that are ugly too, but they're special.
So we've got 3 separate copies of the plan up here. We do have that kind of special grouping of rocks up by the bench. I noticed that straight away when I came, that those are some fantastic rocks. If folks want to come up, and we've also got some play equipment catalogs for inspiration, some Post-it notes, and then some photos just to refresh everyone's mind of the existing equipment and seating.
Yeah, I think those are kind of on the hillside where towards the not.
Those were on the grassy kind of slope. We did notice, yeah, there's kind of 2 or 3 along here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, we were trying to figure out, that's the other thing to think about. We were trying to figure out, first of all, how to make it ADA accessible. And there's quite a slope here. So it would really, even though there's, the back of your fence is here and the back of the houses are there. Right here is a spot that is actually quite flat and you could probably put a spot in there and very easily connect to the path that, those pathways that are lined with rocks. And it would be quite easy to get into that playground area without having, I think there's one fern that would have to be relocated, which, would probably survive in that area. So that's an area. And also here, putting it in a designated parking spot, it's the backside of everybody's houses. So that sometimes from a crime prevention, you don't want to just put a parking spot where there's a lot of eyes on it. Where right here, you do have houses here. I think Marianne, that's quite close to your house. But it would just be sort of a designated spot for an ADA spot. That's really what we need to provide. If someone would have the ability to access the park or access the bench or access the picnic table so that they could enjoy the park as well. Well, and it's not just children. If there's an adult, somebody that has mobility issues that wants to bring their kids to the park. So it's not just for kids to have access because they have issues. It could be, grandma wants to bring her kids to the park, but she has mobility issues, or sensory issues or something. So part of it is so that everybody can get to the park, whether you're coming to play or you're coming to watch your kids play or play together. So. But that's kind of the one area that we're sort of taking a look at that would be the easiest without having to cut into the hillside or do too much fuss with the site that as it is now.
So they have a park, they're in a van, they have a wheelchair. They park on one side of the park, and then they have to go all the way around to access the ADA ramp and stuff like hill.
No. This was the hillside. This would be the area where you would just park and go right onto a path. It would be designated. Yeah, it would be, and that, because that's where the flattest spot is, the easiest to access. Somewhere along that area. Yeah, over here, you would have to cut into it or zigzag it or really get up that hill, because you have to have a certain slope, grades.
Right. And I can pass this through too. This top image here kind of shows how level that portion of the site. So it's standing on the road here, looking in this direction to the park, and that's the most level surface.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people really park right here because it's when they come in, they're like, where am I? Where do I go? They come in here, they park here, they come in and play the site. Yeah. Where do you park when you come? Or where do you go? You walk, right?
You
Yeah.
parked over here.
Yeah. So there's still plenty of place on the shoulder for folks to park. Like I said, there's not.
It's never really crushed.
Did anyone have any feedback about the location of the picnic table or the current bench or any of the other?
Yeah, these are fairly new, so, yeah. Because the other one is kind of.
Right.
Again, life cycle, everything is life cycle. So we really try and either get in front of it or replace it when it breaks or like a chipmunk. In fact, yesterday, the second spring toy was like really a little excited. And Jay got there and spun it around and now it's all, look at this, like it's gonna work again for a while, so. Yeah, so. And we did have some ideas about it.
Let's say you want 5 to 12, would that go in next to it?
Probably not. There's like sizes, so you have to have a certain fall zone around, a bigger one around swings versus a slide. There's probably not space in there within the board. We really didn't think we wanted to build the playground any bigger because it fits pretty nicely right where it is. But that playground will probably be removed and a new one we can put in, or a couple of things, depending on what fits in there. We'll work with some different playground providers. And that's also something, we're probably gonna get, there's 8-10 people here, we'll probably get 10 different ideas, but there's modern playground play structures, there's whimsical play structures, there's nature looking play structures, there's there's a zillion different kinds. American Lake, we have one that looks like a pirate ship because we're at the lake. At Oak Brook Park, we have something that's more like a garden. There's a butterfly climbing. So, is there any ideas, very natural area, any ideas of maybe you'd not like to see something super modern, or you think something kind of modern would be cool, or something whimsical? Again, there's not enough room, but like this park built it, it's a shoots and ladders game, right? So you're at the park on the playground, but you also get to play again. This is of course way bigger than what you would have space for. But if you wanted to look through here or take one with you, if anybody really cares, if you really have an interest, you can look through one of these catalogs and come up with, oh, that's super modern. Or this looks like a park. Or this looks like a pirate ship, or this looks like a train station. I mean, there's lots of different themes. And there's a zillion playgrounds companies. So does anybody have any kind of thematic ideas or concerns or?
Yeah, I think the more it blends in with the natural environment, the more it fits what that park is like. And
Is there any, have they inspected the existing toy? Is it,
We inspect it every month. We inspect every playground every month.
is it still adequate?
It's in good shape because it's not,
they
it's
deem
not like.
they deem it compliant or not compliant.
Yeah.
So you're complying within the safety rules or not.
Okay.
And if you're an inspector and you go and inspect that and you find something in non-compliance, you're obligated to take it out of service or repair it right then. and there.
Okay, if you
And
can.
so, anything that's there, I'm certain is within safety compliance. It's just over time that play value starts to diminish. You lose one of your chipmunks or that sort of thing. So just your play value and the elements will
Lots
down.
of spring toys.
That's
Yeah,
between
don't make up.
natural and the most play value you can get and as natural looking.
Everybody likes
Would be my recommendation.
Well, it's funny, spring toys are really popular, spinning things are really popular too. You know, you can get on, they have individual or team spinning things too. Kids like to spin. They like slides too. The slides are pretty short. And kids really like swings. Swings take up a lot of space from a fall zone. The kids love swings.
Some of those singular kind of swings, though, aren't
Right.
the biggest.
Yeah.
Do any of the playgrounds around here have any covered play areas so they can continue to use the slide or use the equipment when it's raining?
We don't have covered playgrounds
No one?
in our park system. I think, except for some of the parks have a little, like a roof to the, time you have to get on the slides are still there. We don't have covered playgrounds. Which in this day and age, it's not so much for rain anymore. It's, our summers are getting hotter and hotter and longer, so.
You brought up slide and I do with this, because you have that hillside back, absolutely the point of the bank slide. So the slide that kind of goes on there. You would have to.
Bank slide, I've been trying to get one of those at Harry Todd, American Lakes. Yeah.
Well, and they talk about that.
Well,
We're talking here and the school.
Metro Parks has slides off of their Wilson Way down at Point Ruston at Vermont at one of their neighborhood parks. They have 3 slides that are basically built into a hillside. You just have to go upstairs. There's wood stairs in the side of the hill and then you come down the side.
Really.
I'm gonna have to take my son to visit that. That sounds well.
The other thing that some of the parks are having now too, that you might be interested in is that a lot of neighborhoods have asked us to put in something for the adults to play on. Like something that rocks, something that could be a swing that would be more
Fitness.
for adults to play on while the kids are playing, or a piece of exercise equipment. Where they have different things that people use, so while the kids are playing, the parents are playing too, or doing something for them. So I don't know if that's something that would be interesting, at Springbrook, we did that, they had an elliptical thing, and they had some other kind of, something.
I guess my feeling is that it's such a small park. And I get the feeling that we're talking about expanding and putting more national. It's been such a great park for the kids. And whether it's I don't live like there anymore. I would vote for the site.
I wasn't talking about necessarily going outside the footprint. I'm just asking about different elements to put in the playground because again, neighborhoods change and use of space changes. So we're just, identifying ideas and options and what worked for the neighborhood 10 years ago might not be exactly what the neighborhood needs now, but or it could be just keep it exactly the same because we love it just the way that it is, special space that it is right now. So we're just gathering information. We don't have any preconceived ideas, but we're just throwing that out there because other neighbors have asked for that at their parks.
I'm gonna tell you, based on that budget, you are not gonna be.
Yeah.
Playground has gotten pretty expensive, so that allocation of $50,000 is an appropriate amount to fill that space. You're not gonna be too bad. The ADA thing, you're gonna, like I say, yeah, it's gonna be a combination. And if Lakewood makes that, improvement in place, they're obligated by the law to keep out that. They can't do that.
Did you have a question? Oh, a chipmunk.
Oh, you're not gonna find a chipmunk like they have there now. in the catalog. They don't make it like that. Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts or concerns?
Or you could direct us to draw it up here, make notes.
Well, there's one new bench and the other kind of hanging out chained to the tree. It looks antique. So, but if we do a pathway to the park, the idea would probably be to put a bench along that pathway, just to give someplace, another place to rest. Two people want to come in and want to sit on the same bench. They're sitting, he's in the shade and he's reading a book. He doesn't want to sit by him. He wants to have two benches. And also, there's only one picnic table there. So,
They can use the picnic rock.
use the picnic rock. From the people who see it. Good, we're glad that you're here. I'm really glad that you came tonight and shared some information with us. This makes it a better project than the end. So, it is almost November. Believe it or not. So depending, we'll probably be working on kind of just, it's not gonna be super fancy design. So you'll probably see improvements coming next year, early first quarter next year, because you're not talking, it's just about when.
Well, it might be a little longer with supply chain.
Yeah, depending on supply, some things can get shipped in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, then there's a hurricane and then it slows it down a little bit. But you'll be, we'll get back to you on kind of what we're thinking about, and also we should be seeing some improvements. Hopefully you'll see more folks out there on regular basis doing some maintenance that has been done by volunteers. And you may see some things move with the idea that we can do it now because it's not summer season, knowing that things will be coming back in spring.
We also had a sign-in sheet. I'm not sure if everyone got a chance to fill that out. So before you leave, it'll be up here on the corner of this desk.
Let you know, send a little note out, or email address or something, send you a note, let you know what's happening. And you can always report 311 or parks@cityoflakewood.us, just call City Hall and say, "We're not sending you to the park." All right, that's all we got for this. Thanks for
Yep. Thank you all for your input. All right, with the board meeting, we move on to board member comments. Do we have any board member comments? Oh, I just rolled down with the agenda asking for board member comments. That's next on the agenda. You want to do director's report?
That'll be board member comments.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give you some updates on our capital projects. So we have Springbrook Park. Finally, we would have been done by now, but it took a long time to get a shoreline permit, which I'm not sure why we needed a shoreline permit because we really weren't in there, but we got one and now we're getting it's out to bid. So we should be I think we're going to council the first part of January or pardon me, in December. Council. Yeah, so we'll start construction in January. So we're very excited about that. With the gateways, you might have noticed that the gateway that was hit several times on Pack Avenue in Bridgeport was all removed and cleaned up finally. And we're getting ready to put in some landscaping and big rocks to stop the cars from driving through. And we'll be getting a new sign in there soon. The other thing that we're working on with the gateways is the idea is there's 15 different gateways. And so we're really down to the final few. And so the next one would be at up off of 84th and Tacoma Mall Boulevard. That's that 84th exit off the freeway, but we're going to actually pull it down away from that freeway area because it's kind of busy up there. And it'll be between the freeway and where it's like Park. So it'll be a great way again of improving that area. Park signage, we've got a design contract for the park signs. We'll be starting that schedule and I think we'll be bringing something to you in January so that we can come back and then provide a recommendation to council. If it's not ready for January, it'll be there in February. We'll be working on that. So Words Lake Park, we're going full board. We did a second phase 2 round of grants. Thank you, Stacy, who did an amazing presentation, and we got quite high on the list as we normally do. And so we're going to hopefully be getting that funding and be able to combine the 2 phases, but we're working on phase 1 design and permitting right now, or it'll be going to permitting soon. And that would be starting later next year. So that's really exciting. And if we can do the 2 phases together, that would be really, really great because that'll make a really big improvement to that site. Sealy Lake, again, just the permitting it's sitting in permitting. And then Pierce County will be taking the lead on those improvements. They've already blocked off the driveway to get down there because that was really a challenging area. We've done a lot of improvements within that park with the trails and removing things. And so they'll be making some improvements to that probably first of next year. Fort Silicon Park turf fields, you know, we all said, yay, we're building a big baseball field there. So that's taking a lot of time and energy. Pierce College is, of course, covering the full cost of that facility. And so I think that the final, we're getting down to we're at past 50%, making some changes to things, and we'll be looking at 95% in November, and then probably going out to permit in early next year, correct? Yep, she's nodding. Yep, there you go. American Lake, again, another project that we're moving forward with, doing the final design for that area, trying to figure out how the top area connects to the bottom area and making that ADA accessible. And we'll be looking at going through permitting the early part of next year with the idea of starting construction right after summer, just like we did for Harry Todd, to be ready for the next summer. So some great improvements at American Lake Park to get make specifically that area ADA accessible, but also just getting rid of the old restroom building and really kind of sprucing that place up. Oakbrook Park, we did a design thing like this for Oakbrook. That's a much larger park, a lot more use in that facility, came up with a lot of bigger ideas than our $50,000 budget. So council will be looking at maybe providing some additional resources to do some more things there so we can meet all those needs of that neighborhood. And so council will be taking a look at that when they approve the budget at the end of this year. So we'll be making those improvements next year as well. Primley Park, here we are. Got some great feedback tonight, and very lovely, cherished little neighborhood park. And so we'll get on top of keeping up with that spot and making some nice improvements there for the neighborhood. Don't know anything about boundary line adjustment. Pierce College is still standing with their survey people, boundary people. They finally got the property in their name. So now they're working through all of the things that colleges have to do, working with the state to make that happen. But we're pushing them every few weeks to say, where are we? But it's really on them right now to get through their process. And then we did finalize with the Nisqually, you know, we've presented that, I think, a couple meetings ago. And so that's a really exciting project that we'll be working on with the Nisqually tribe. And their tribal council and our city council all approved the phase 1, and it'll be a legislative request next year. So we're really excited about that. And that's just going to be a great partnership. It's going to be great for our community. It's going to be so educational and informative and really, really connect our community. So I'm really, really looking forward to working on that project next year. We had a crazy summer, busy summer. The fall is kicking off as well. People are coming back to the parks. I left some information for you, but you know, after 2 summers of kind of just doing some stuff, it's been really busy. We had a lot of grants. We had a lot of sponsorships. We did a lot of programs. We just did our final rocket program on Saturday with partnering with Pierce College. It was great. We had about 90 people out there. And that was really fun to learn about rockets and then make your own. So the kids had a good time on Saturday out at the park. Along with about 40 people came out from various churches. It was kind of an inter-church, interfaith work team. We had with Graves Concerns, they did like 39 markers out there. Again, that restoration project of the Patient Cemetery at Fort Steilacoom is pretty amazing. Those folks are really dedicated. And so we had a little church on the prairie. We had Christ Lutheran and the LDS Church. So they all worked together on Saturday. It was really great to be out there along with a giant cross-country meet and our soccer friends. So it was a busy day at the park. The senior center, you know, we keep hoping with our fingers crossed to get back into the Lakewood Community Center. That building has probably as many or more issues that the library had. So they're really struggling to figure out how they're going to get that building, you know, just get the shell fixed and get the interior fixed. And so they're working on some options with that. In the meantime, our senior center staff has been utilizing police station, city hall, outdoor, virtual, really doing a lot of different programs. And now that we really know we're probably not going to get back into that building for a while, we'll be looking at some alternate spaces as well, so that we can get some of those regular ongoing programs back up and going. So they're going to come to our meeting next month and give you an update on what they're doing and how things have been working over this last pandemic, and then kind of what the goal is for the future. So that'll be fun to hear from them next month. Probably have staff do an end of the year special event activity, and then we'll talk about how the budget goes. So any questions with any of that stuff? Okay, I guess we could hear from our council member.
There is it's kind of like setting in a 125 batting average hitter in the 9th inning, but on the senior center, the county has a potential $25 million grant request that's pigeonholed in the Infrastructure Act that it's eligible for, which would I think got into just in time for the next cycle. And so it's a real long shot, but that would rehab the whole building. So there isn't money to do that otherwise. So we'll see. Feds are printing money faster than people can spend it. So maybe some will come our way.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, the community center, Lakewood Community Center, long before we were City of Lakewood, was really the only gathering space. You know, it was really an important building for our community, and it was built in the 70s, and it served a lot of purposes. Right now, it is hosting our specialized recreation. I say the Metro Parks, Pierce County, and almost all the cities and towns in Pierce County have joined together to really be efficient and run this great specialized recreation program, which is doing great things for our community. We should have them come in and do a presentation. We're a partner in that program. We are fortunate that the base of it is in Lakewood, so that we really are serving our residents, but they're doing great work in Puyallup and Milton and, you know, Sumner and Bonnie Lake. Everybody's coming together to support our special needs residents, primarily, I think up to age, well, I think they do all ages. So, a specialized recreation for individuals with disabilities. So they have all kinds of programs from bowling to Special Olympics. You've heard of Special Olympics. They do sports. Plus they have a lot of social activities, dances, and they go to the movies, and it's really fantastic. So we'll bring them in and have them at the first of the year come in and talk about the programs that they're doing and the services that they're providing. But it's really important. And Pierce County and Metro Parks are really the two big people doing it. And so agencies doing it. And individuals, if you have family members with some kind of disability, you really get connected to a program, and you're going to drive to participate in that program. You know, there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of fear maybe. And so you get really connected to a program. So those people were really providing the majority of the services. And so, but they saw that they were serving kind of the same population, sometimes the same people, but they had two big overheads. So we merged everything and it's really a great program. It's reduced the cost and it just makes it easier for people to participate. So, and then the folks in Lakewood are also participating. So we're able to serve our citizens without, again, City of Lakewood really wants a comprehensive set of services for the community. Sometimes we are the provider, sometimes we're the partner, sometimes we're just a clearinghouse to help you find the right spot. So anyway, that's that. So anyway, good to see you. Does anybody
Any board member comments? A youth council? Yep. All right, with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Michael first. Anyone want a second? I have a Vito with a second. All in favor? All right, all opposed, hearing none, unanimous approval. Thank you all.